Xochiquetzal. Xochiquetzal, pronounced Xochiquetzal, was the Aztec goddess of fertility, sexuality, pregnancy, and traditional female handicrafts such as weaving. She was also heavily associated with the moon and the various lunar phases. Xochiquetzal's name was a combination of the Nahuatl words Xochitl, meaning flower, and Quetzali, meaning either Quetzal bird or the highly desirable tail feathers of that bird. Taken altogether, her name was often interpreted as flower Quetzal feather. Xochiquetzal was also occasionally referred to as Xochiquetzal, meaning maiden or young girl. Though this term did not originally imply anything beyond age, it took on a virginal connotation following the Spanish conquest. Xochiquetzal is unique amongst Aztec goddesses in that she was always portrayed as a young woman. Her peers, like Xochiquetzal, were usually shown as matrons. In artistic renderings, Xochiquetzal was usually adorned with flowers and shown wearing rich garments. The link between Xochiquetzal, flowers, and sexuality was not an arbitrary one. Like many other cultures, the Aztecs drew parallels between flowers and the clitoris, or vulva. Xochiquetzal's familial ties are somewhat mysterious, as her parentage was lost to the historical gaps left by time and conquest. Nevertheless, she did have several important relationships. Her twin brother, Xochiquetzal, was the god of art, beauty, and dance. Like his sister, Xochiquetzal has been interpreted as a god of erotic love. Unlike his sister, Xochiquetzal represented male prostitutes and homosexuality. Xochiquetzal played wife to many different Aztec gods. Such gods include Xochiquetzal, god of the rising sun, healing, and hallucinogenic drugs. Tlaloc, god of rain. Tezcatlipoca, one of the four creator deities who served as omnipresent god of the night sky and knower of all thoughts. Sentiote, god of maize. Xochiquetzal, god of fire and heat. Family tree. Siblings brother. Xochiquetzal consorts. Husbands. Tlaloc Tezcatlipoca Xochiquetzal Sentiote Xochiquetzal. Mythology. Though Xochiquetzal is one of the oldest Aztec gods, her origin story remains unclear. She was an important member of the Aztec pantheon and one of several literal and figurative mothers to the Aztec people. A recurring element in Xochiquetzal's legends was her relationship to the moon. Such relationships changed depending on the myth being told, however, as she would reflect different aspects of the lunar cycle in each tale. Origin myth. While many Aztec gods had explicit origin stories, Xochiquetzal did not. While it was possible that the Aztecs lacked an origin story for her, it is more likely that it has simply been lost to time and conquest. Xochiquetzal was said to have come from Tamunchan, the ancestral origin place of the Aztec gods. Her connection to Tamunchan hinted at her enduring status in Mesoamerican religion. Tamunchan was not a Nahuatl word but a Mayan one. The Mayan equivalent to Xochiquetzal was Goddess Ai, a deity that represented fertility, procreation, erotic love, and weaving. Like Goddess Ai, Xochiquetzal was associated with a lunar cult, though there is some ambiguity as to which phase of the moon she represents. The goddess of the moon moves swiftly across the sky, seemingly visiting different planetary lovers along the way before returning to stay with her solar husband for several days each month. Susan Milbrath, Xochiquetzal and the creation of the second woman. During their quest to create the universe, Xicoteotl, Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, and Huitzilopochtli created the first man and woman. When their son Pilsicli came of age, however, there was no one for him to marry. Seeing that this problem needed to be remedied, the gods made of the hairs of Xochiquetzal, a woman with whom his first marriage took place, flowers for the land of the dead. One Aztec legend described the risque origins of bats and how they, along with an unwitting Xochiquetzal, were responsible for Mictlan's foul odor. The first bat was born when Quetzalcoatl's semen dripped onto a rock while he was washing. The god sent the bat to bite out the vulva of the young goddess Xochiquetzal, from which they grew nasty-smelling flowers to present to Mictlantecutli. In some Aztec stories, Xochiquetzal was the wife of the sun, which would spend the night traveling through Mictlan before returning the next day. This connection could explain Xochiquetzal's involvement in this odd tale. Pregnancy, erotic love, and weaving. At first glance, the conjunction of pregnancy, erotic love, and weaving seems like a relatively random assortment of concepts. However, these relationships make more sense when one considers Aztec symbolism. Pregnancy and weaving were connected through the idea of a spindle. As a weaver worked, the spindle gradually became more round. As a pregnancy progressed, the mother-to-be's belly would grow rounder as well. As a lunar deity, Xochiquetzal had an additional link to pregnancy. The moon also grew rounder over the course of its cycle. Weaving and erotic love were also connected. For reasons that aren't entirely clear, weavers had a reputation for being loose women. Xochiquetzal had something of a reputation for being a seductress, seducing, among others, the virtuous Xochiquetzal. The Festival of Xochiquetzal. Xochiquetzal, sometimes called Xochiquetzal, was an annual festival held primarily to honor Tlaloc. Xochiquetzal's cult also partook in the celebrations. During this festival, Xochiquetzal was honored with flower offerings, drinking, and fornications. As was common in Aztec festivals, an Ninetlatli, or impersonator, was chosen to represent Xochiquetzal. The Ninetlatli was a young woman who would be decapitated and flayed. A man was selected to wear her skin and weave, an act typically reserved for women, in a representation of the gender ambiguity embodied in the cult of lunar deities. Xochiquetzal, Yapan, and the origin of scorpions. Much like the biblical Eve, Xochiquetzal was the first woman to sin in Aztec mythology. In line with her licentious reputation, Xochiquetzal seduced her brother Yapan, who had taken a vow of chastity. Xochiquetzal went unpunished for her actions, while Yapan was turned into a scorpion for his insolence.